All right, so cut to the next day and we've got our replacement radiator, and this is just one from a parts store. And well, one thing you're going to learn with these is there's a lot of varying quality on it, so you're going to want to do your research on which one you want to get. You know, if you're really up for it, you know, maybe get the Mopar one. But at any rate, I think I've used before the TYC brand one. I think that's what I currently have in my WJ. And it's been working pretty well for me, but you know, you read reviews, sometimes there's bad ones out there. I ended up getting this one at a parts store, so what I did is I did inspect the part at the store after picking it up and just made sure there was nothing like damaged on it or whatnot. And you just sort of run that risk when you order it, that you know, if it gets damaged in shipping. But at any rate, this one looks pretty good and it ought to work out. And it does have a limited lifetime warranty, but as you can see, you don't really want to have to use that. So at any rate, right here, these are the fittings for our transmission cooler if you're so equipped that way. Of course, ours uses the transmission cooler within the condenser, so we're not going to use these. So I actually have a bunch of vacuum caps and whatnot, and I don't know, I just force a habit, even though it's not used and there's nothing in it. I like to cap these off and just zip tie them on or clamp them on. And that just keeps anything from, you know, dirt or grease getting in there. I don't know. There's probably no reason to do that, but I do it anyway. So that's what we're going to do. We'll go ahead and inspect this, make sure it's in good shape before we install it. And then we'll just go ahead and slide it in. And basically as we do that, it's a really tight fit against the frame rail here. So you're going to want to be aware of that, because you got to get it to fit down. And one thing you got to check too, if you look down in here, I'm noticing, here's one of our rubber feet for the radiator, and of course this has some trans fluid on it, so we got to clean that off. And the one over here isn't there, so it must be in the bottom of the radiator we took out. So make sure you transfer those over, because that's what the radiator actually sits on. They're kind of like rubber isolators. So make sure you got those. That'll let it sit at the right height and also keep it a little bit free from vibration and damage. So, all right, and just an update. The new one actually comes with new rubber isolators. So I couldn't remember, but we see them right there. So we're in good shape. Got our lines disconnected. Alright, so we've transferred everything we need to off our old radiator. Basically, these little caps here, as you can see. Like I said, that's not necessary, but we chose to do it. So before I put it in, I'm just going to make sure that everything's out of the way as much as it can be. And we're ready to go ahead and slide it in. Now it's a tight fit. So this probably won't go smoothly the first time. I'm going to drop that side down past the steering box. And as a result of doing that, I need to move these hoses. And then I can drop that past these hoses. Bring it back over that way a little bit, and that should be enough, hopefully, to give us the room on that side. There we go. Slide it down. Oops. I put our bolts back in here. Forgot to take them back out. These right here. Out of the way, and well, we're almost home. Let's make sure that this is gonna sit in there. Make sure this one's gonna sit in. That's it. That's in. That actually wasn't too bad. So at this stage, we're about ready to go ahead and remount this. So we're going to leave these lines disconnected for now because we still have to put our shroud and fan back in. But just looking like we're pretty much lined up here. All right, so our radiator's pretty much in. So what we should be able to do at this point, okay, so let's go ahead and we'll cut these. And so that's going to let our condenser drop down. So remember, like when we took it off, you can't just slide it in here. You got to make sure that the bottom pieces slide into the area on the radiator. Let me show you on our old one. So basically this is where it would bolt in on the top. This is where the top piece bracket goes, but on the bottom there's like a little catch right here that the bottom one slides into. So you got to lock that into place on the bottom, the condenser, and then this will be lined up here on the top. Okay, so basically I just come down, you can reach underneath, push it up, and get it lined up. That one's lined up. Let's get this one lined up. This one's lined up too. All right, they're both in. So we're in good shape. Forgot on our old one, these pieces need to be taken off the old radiator and put on the new one. Both for here, you just basically use a screwdriver, come in here, push the release. There's a release kind of back here, and then it'll push off. Just make sure it doesn't go shooting across the garage. And just slide that one in. Do the same over here. Slide that one in. All right, now we can go ahead and bolt that piece on. Now don't forget, you have to do that for the back side as well, where your shroud mounts up. So do that before you put your shroud on. So I'm going to go ahead and pop those off the back of our old one, and then we'll get them installed. Here's those pieces that were taken off. Okay. Try to do this one-handed. So basically you see this piece right here is kind of our little locking piece we need to release. So we'll just come up underneath, pry it up and over slowly, and then once we get it started, you can just come pull it out. Do the same on the bottom. Remember, we're storing the bolts in there so we wouldn't lose them. This one's a little less mangled than the top one. See if I can do this again one-handed. See, if you do it one-handed and aren't careful, it'll do what that just did. It'll shoot off and hit your toolbox if you're lucky. Otherwise, it'll shoot across the room and you'll lose it. So don't lose it. All right, that's that. All right, so I'll just come in and slide these other two on. Lock it in. All right, so now that we've got our condenser all set and ready, we can go ahead and bolt it in and attach it to our radiator. Okay, and on this side, we're going to reattach the wire for our brake buddy. Not everyone. All right. Okay, we can get rid of this piece now. Okay. All right, we got our condenser and radiator back as one assembly. So, next up, we can go ahead and get our shroud reinstalled. And that means getting our mechanical fan put back on as well. Okay, so we've got our shroud, we've got our mechanical fan, which will lay inside the shroud. Lift both pieces up. Go ahead and drop them in, knowing that it'll be a tight fit. There we go, we're getting there. All right, let's drop them down, go over a bit, and ooh, look at that, we're there. Let's mount our mechanical fan, just get it started on the threads. mechanical fan started on the threads there. Okay, so we're pretty much in. Looks like we're just about lined up. The big thing we need to do is now pop underneath, make sure these lines are clear and they're going to fit in where they need to go, and they are. So we can go ahead, inspect our O-rings, make sure everything's looking good, and get this piece reinstalled. And we'll torque that to factory spec, and that'll keep us from having any leaks. All right, so before we actually get our radiator totally locked into place, I want to do a couple things. First off, while I can get to it, I'm going to go ahead and reconnect our electric fan to our locking clip. Don't forget this little rubber strip. We'll transfer it off our old one onto our new one. And all right, so before we cinch down our radiator, this way we can kind of push it back a little bit to give us a little more room here. We're going to go ahead and attach our fan. We're going to go ahead and tighten it to spec using our pulley holder and our adjustable wrench that we used the other day. Okay, we used our pulley holder tool and our adjustable wrench. We got our mechanical fan nice and tight so it won't fly off and damage everything. We got this rubber strip reinstalled. Just a tip, when you're pulling it off, if you have it break, like this one's done, you can basically punch new holes in it. And then, if you need to, the aluminum's so soft, you can just drill a couple small holes on the slip, just being careful you don't damage the actual radiator itself. And just push them in new areas so we're able to reuse that rubber strip. All right, so we've got our fan plugged in and mounted. We've got our mechanical fan put in. We're just going to go underneath and make sure that those lines are in the shroud good. We're going to go ahead and bolt our shroud up. And once our shroud's bolted up, we can go ahead and attach our radiator. So, okay, we'll reattach our shroud bolts. We'll start with the top one first. Let's get the lower one. Start it hand tight. Okay, and if you remember on that one, I used a 1/4 inch ratchet with a wazzle. And that's what we're going to use again. Okay, we got nice and snug. And then we got one more to do because we're only doing 3. I don't do the one on the bottom. Didn't have a problem with it last time. I'm not going to do it this time. All right, we're good to go. Now we can go ahead. We've got everything all set, so we can go ahead and bolt our radiator back to the body. We've got our bolts to do that. Now, on these, If it doesn't line up, it's because these rubber isolators can actually, come out and move. So you just got to slide them until they line up, and then they should line up just fine. So like that one's not quite lined up. There we go, just moved it a bit. Now it's lined up. Let's get it started hand tight. Okay, do the same on the other side. That's one WJ radiator assembly installed. Mechanical fans installed. We'll go ahead and hook our hoses back up. At least I think we can. We had actually replaced these hoses last time around as well. Okay, there we go. This zip tie right here, I just use that for this piece to route through, which we can go ahead and reinstall. The whole idea, I just wanted something that this could go through so it wouldn't dangle too much. And this fits back in here and it connects up to that piece right there. Let's go ahead and put our radiator cap back on. Now, I had actually replaced this radiator cap when we did this the last time, so it's in good shape. But if yours is the original, go ahead and replace it. It's cheap insurance. This helps keep the system pressurized at the right amount. And these things do wear out. All right, just got to crawl underneath. I'll hook the lower hose up. Closed. All right. We're looking pretty good. I think we'll go ahead and mix up a little coolant and see if it'll fill up. All right, we'll go ahead and fill up our radiator. That way if we have any leaks, we'll know early rather than later. And we don't want to forget our air tube here. And if this was a V8 WJ, you'd have actually the bleed nipple. That's where you'd want to do most of your filling once you get the radiator filled. That's going to be our highest point. But on this one, I believe, just do it through here. Now hopefully it won't all come out the bottom. So this is, by the way, I don't really care about the brand, but this GO5, Xerox GO5, is an HOAT compliant antifreeze. And this is what this calls for in a WJ. This is actually leftover from last time I did my WJ. Had a full gallon of it left over, mixed. Went ahead and labeled it 50-50 with distilled water. And I got the date on it, so we'll probably need more, and I do have another gallon and a gallon of distilled water. We can mix some more. What I'll do is I'll empty this one first, and I'll use this jug to go ahead and make my 50-50 mix, and then whatever's left in the other one, I'll have 2 gallons of 50-50. Now obviously it's a little more expensive, but if you think about it, the distilled water is only $1 a gallon, so I'm getting for about 18 bucks, I think it is. I end up with 2 full gallons of 50-50, whereas it's $13 for a gallon of 50-50. So if you're willing to make another trip, you can save yourself about close to 10 bucks. I don't remember the capacity right offhand. I haven't done a full flush on this one this time. I did it last time. You can check WJ Jeeps. This is .com. And you can find all the specs there. All right, so we'll mix up some more and get this topped off, and then of course we'll run it and bleed it. But for the meantime, I wanted to get some coolant in it, make sure that we weren't leaking. So I'm going to cap it for now, and we're going to finish it off once I validate we're not leaking. All right, so our radiator's in, everything's put together. We've gone ahead and filled it with coolant. All we got to do now when we get it running is make sure we bleed the system, make sure there's no air in it. And we've kind of looked at how much trans fluid we lost, and we measured it, and put some back in, not what we took out, fresh stuff, fresh ATF plus 4. So again, once we're done, we'll want to check that while it's running like you would normally do and make sure that we have it topped off correctly. Don't want to overfill it. And well, we're all ready to button this thing up. So why don't we go ahead and get right on it, and we'll get this thing all reassembled. It's basically just a reverse of what you did to take it off. So remember, if you stored all your bolts in these areas, just make sure you get them out. And I'm going to try to go by memory, see if I can remember how all these puzzle pieces go back together. Okay, looks like this is up. Go ahead and get this piece reinstalled. Okay, now this is where we might have a little bit of a problem. This is sort of pushed in a little bit. So I'm going to loosen these a little bit like they were. I hate to do that, but that's how they were since this is pushed in a little bit. You shouldn't have to do that if you don't have this problem, but unfortunately we do. I guess they do. This is on the outside. Now, you want to get this aligned, make sure you don't have any hood latch problems. It's pretty simple. You can pretty much see where the bolts went. So just get it nice and lined up. Right, kind of where it left the shadow where the bolts were. We're getting there. This piece is next. Like I was mentioning earlier, you don't want to mess with just trying to stick those through. Might as well do this the easy way. Just come in here, get your locking pin released. Just come in here and pop it loose. All right. Go ahead and get this mounted up. Actually, it's a little easier with this out of the way, so I recommend you do it the correct way, like that. All right, now, kind of pain in the butt part is you gotta get this to line up with this clip right here. So you kind of gotta, what you can do, actually make life easier. Let's just pop this out like that. And we'll slide it in here. I'll show you. This piece will just slide it up and in here. It's easy to get out once you've popped it out. So I still think taking this off, it makes sense to lift them out because you can't really reach behind and release these clips. But when this piece is out of the way, it's real easy to reach back there and get them set. Set. And of course, since I took these off, I totally forgot about them. So it's not a big deal. We'll just go ahead and feed them through before we get too far in our reassembly. I've already pushed the side clips in, so that's not a big deal. Just make sure it's a little bit in there. So should have done this before I hooked those sides in, but kind of forgot, so I don't normally do it this way. Locking pin, make sure it's tight. Don't want your headlights going out while you're driving. Okay, make sure your harnesses are feeding through correctly. All right, good. Let's go ahead and assemble that now. One. 2. Okay, then you get the center there, we'll just go around and get the rest of them bolted in. There we go, that piece is on. Getting close now. So I think we can go ahead and put our bumper cover on before we do the headlights. So we'll move the harnesses up out of the way. Let's get our bumper cover on. Then there's some like white clips you'll see. You want to slide it into that. You'll see it when you do it. Okay, so there's one side. And there's the second side. Oops, fell off that side. That's right. There's that side in. This side. That's one bumper cover reinstalled. We just got to get it screwed down. So we'll go ahead and do that. Get all of our plastic rivets back in. There we go. I knew I'd get it. Okay, so basically, just push your pin through. Get it nice and tight, and then push your pin in to hold it. Same here. Push your pin in to lock it. Push your pin in to lock it. Push your pin in to lock it. Alright, so that'll hold these. Now we can go ahead and make sure these are mounted up correctly. There we go, that one's hooked. That one's hooked. Let's get our side bolts in. Connect our fog lights. There we go. I'll go ahead and get our splash shield put back in. Let's have to get some zip ties on that. Alright, we're getting there. Let's get our headlights reinstalled. Nice and simple. Remember, they can only go one way. Alright, get them lined up, push back in, and pop them in. front drill insert. There we go. That's all right, I didn't have this camera running. But basically we want to go ahead and let it heat up. It's going to start bubbling up. We want to let some air come out, but then we want our thermostat to go ahead and open, and that'll suck down some more fluid and pump out the rest of the air bubbles if any exist in the motor. If it starts overflowing too much, just shut it off and let it go ahead and settle down. So. So that's going to drip down on our floor. We'll have to clean that up. All right, so far I don't see any leaks, aside from where we dripped while it was filling. All right, we're getting some good heat now. Sounds nice and smooth. Again, no leaks. Temp's looking good. All right, so we validated all our lights are working. We don't have any leaks. Transmission fluid's good. We're all done. So that's pretty much it. That's replacing a radiator on a 4-liter WJ. Now remember, if you've got a 4.7 liter in the hydraulic fan, you've got a few different steps to do. You've got to remove those hydraulic hoses, make sure you refill with the approved fluid, and well, also if you have a different transmission cooler setup, you got to do it a little differently there, but aside from that, the steps are pretty similar.